Well, hello everybody. Welcome to my channel. My name is Iris, and I know it's been a long time since I've done this type of motivational, educational, inspiring video. So I hope you like today's video. Today's video is on moving through separation, kind of what to expect once you've decided to leave a relationship or somebody has split up with you. And it really doesn't matter whether you are doing the one that is initiating or instigating the breakup or if you're on the receiving end of it. The pain is the pain, and the pain needs to be healed. So today I want to share with you some of the things that I have been doing through my own breakup, some of the things that the feelings that I've had, some of the things that I've experienced, and what I've done to help me through my own healing process. So when we first split up with somebody, if you've been with somebody for a while, there is a period of time where you're getting used to the separation, right? Because when we're in these relationships, we have an attachment to the other person, whether you had, a pretty good relationship, or whether you've had a really horrible relationship and now the relationship is over, there is still that attachment to that person. And again, it doesn't matter. It could be a short relationship, it could be a long relationship, but there is still an attachment, because when you think about it, when you were in that relationship together, your mind was always on including the other person in the relationship equation. So everything that you did, things were, the other person was always somewhere in the back of your mind. Even if you had that moment of defiance where it was like, I don't even care, I'm just going to go out and do this thing myself, there was still that rumbling behind you of it in the back of your mind that goes, there's that still that person on your mind, even though you are forcing yourself to do whatever it is that you were going to do. That person, you guys were a unit, so you guys were attached, and that's just what happens in relationships, right? So there's that whole thought process. So in the beginning, it's really challenging because you're going through the detachment and separation phase. And because we create a lot of our identities around the relationship and the things that we did in the relationship, the places we went, the routines, the habits, the little things that we did. And all of a sudden, we have to separate ourselves, and it's sticky. I imagine it to be like, you're like, it's sticky and you're trying to pull yourself apart. And that whole process is really uncomfortable, and it's really scary, because now you're evolving into a different version of yourself, and you're kind of settling into being that single person. And for a lot of people, that is really scary. The whole idea of separating yourself and being that single person without your significant other is a really scary thing. And it's the thing that keeps pulling people back together with each other in a codependent way, when in actuality, they actually should take a break from the relationship. But the fear of that whole separation is tremendously scary, and it's really uncomfortable. And what happens, or what can happen, is that as you go through that separation, as you kind of learn to settle into who you are, you might become lonely, and you might isolate yourself. And because of that loneliness, you start to second guess yourself. And not just because of the loneliness, it's about the fear of, like, who am I now? What am I doing? Like, it's like somebody turned over the apple cart. Now there's no apples in the apple cart. And it's like, now what do I do? And I know it's kind of a funny analogy, but it's like, now what do I do? Your life was that, and now it's not. And now what do I do? And that can have us second guessing everything that we're doing. Did I make the right decision? Maybe I should get back together with that other person. There's a lot of there's a lot of that doubt that comes up, and especially if you're the one that made the decision to leave the relationship like I did, we can second guess ourselves, but we can't second guess ourselves. We have to trust ourselves. There's a reason we made that decision for ourselves, and we have to trust ourselves. And the challenge is just allowing ourselves to move through that pain. Some other things that you're going through is the refinagling of your finances, right? Because now all of a sudden you're not sharing finances together if you were living together, and you're no longer having to give consideration for that other person. And so that's a readjustment there as well. There's also the time factor. What do you do with yourself? What do you do with your time? A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll jump right into a new relationship because it's kind of like a band-aid for having to deal with the emotion of settling into a new way of being. And being in a new relationship makes them feel loved, makes them feel worthy, makes them feel better in the moment, but eventually you got to deal with the pain. That's just the way it goes. So the sooner you deal with the pain, the better. And I did a video on relationship jumping, and you'll see a little thing come up here in the corner that if you want to watch that video about relationship jumping, it'll be up there. And but those are all just band-aids, and it's part of the process of the healing, right? So the key thing is to really just allow yourself to still your mind, and just allow yourself to move through that pain. But another thing is that in the early stages of the split up, that person is going to be really, really heavy on your mind. And if you're like me and you're going through this process, I'm kind of 2.5 months into this process, and still on a daily basis, my ex-partner is still on my mind every single morning. But the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions that I have about that aren't the same. It's not the same level of intensity anymore. That we miss our exes, and we think about them, and we reminisce. And depending again where you're at in your own journey of your own inner healing, you might be experiencing a whole lot of pain, a whole lot of resentment. You might be in that phase where you're really, really angry with them, and you just really hate them. It's kind of like a love hate. I hate that this happened. I hate that you did that. You did this, or you didn't do that, and I expected you to do this, and and you never came through. And whatever this scenario is, right, for you, we all go through that phase when there is anger. But with time, that anger subsides, and it's replaced with more compassion for yourself and compassion for the other person, because ultimately people are always doing the best they can with where they're at and what is in their awareness at the time. So the early stages, I'm going to say the first 3 to 6 months. The first 3 months, I think, are the most challenging, because there's a lot of you recreating themselves. And incidentally, there's a lot of them recreating themselves. And there's a lot of things, there's a lot of band-aids, and we're going to talk about those band-aids here in my tips that I've used to help me on my healing path from my relationship. But we're all each on our journey, whether we choose to move through the pain now, or whether we choose to mask it in other ways. So what I wanted to share with you are some tips to help you move through your own pain of a breakup. So one of the things that I have really, really been focusing on is not to mask my pain behind alcohol, I don't smoke weed or do any drugs and that type of thing. And but a lot of people, but I do drink alcohol moderately. So a lot of people will go out and just drink or smoke a lot of weed or do a lot of drugs to mask the pain. And that's all good and fine in the moment, right? Because if you're getting high on some level, if you're drinking, that's like liquid courage. And don't we all have a lot of courage when, if you're a happy, drunk, not drunk, you know what I mean, right? But you get feeling happy and light and airy, and you forget all your troubles, right? And that's good in the moment. The problem is you end up drunk texting, you end up calling, you end up saying and doing things that just make you feel the next day not so great, and it doesn't help your healing process. I hope that you get what I'm talking about here. And what ends up happening then is alcohol acts like a depressant. It gives you that rush of energy and lightness and happiness and things like that. It can also make you feel really sad and tired and depressed, and it brings out more of the emotional side that makes it harder to deal with the pain and move through to feeling happier. And if you're like me, what I was doing in the beginning was kind of masking it with some wine. And if I did that for a few days, even like if I had just a glass or two a night, if I did that a couple days in a row, by day 3, I was feeling really, really depressed. And the feelings and the emotions that I had were so much more intense. And then I had to work through all of those more intense feelings and emotions. And I'm really a firm believer of not of having no communication, if you can. Like, sometimes it's unavoidable because you have kids, but that wasn't the case with me, and certainly not the case with everybody. But the less communication that you can have in the beginning, the better it is, because it allows for the reacclimating yourself with your new position and giving you time to heal. If you're always in each other's presence, whether it's through following each other on social media, commenting on social media, texting each other, purposely running into each other, doing drive-bys, by their house or whatever, that doesn't help the healing process. And it's really hard to have that distance and have that no communication, but it really does help that healing process. So coming back to numbing your pain through some type of a substance, it's all good and fine in the moment, but it has a negative effect in the long term. So one of the things that I did was I just stopped, and it just allowed me to work with the pain that kind of showed up for me. And that is tip number 1. That is one thing that I did do, is not drink for a while, and just did other things, which I'm going to share with you now. Okay, so tip number 2 is to allow the pain to move through you. And pain it's like it's this thing that washes over us, right? And it starts in our head, it hits us in our heart, it's going to hit us in other places in our bodies. And you can feel that tightness, and it closes in on you, and it just squishes you, right? And the pain is intense. But if you just sit with that pain, and this happens like very early on in the separation phase, the first, I would say the first month is probably the worst. But it does get easier. If you're in month 1, just know that it does get easier, and the pain does kind of subside. But if you allow the pain just to move through you and just kind of feel it in your body, and it will move through you. And I did a lot of distracting things. Like I would watch happy movies um, in the first month, and I would just kind of hibernate and isolate myself. And all I wanted to do was be in my own space and just refocus my attention onto something happier. I watched Eat, Pray, Love probably about 5 times in the first 6 weeks because I connected with what Julia Roberts was going through, her character in that movie, what she was going through, and it didn't help me. It helped me to feel not so alone. So I use that kind of as a distraction tool and to kind of give me the encouragement that this is going to be okay. I didn't make the wrong decision. It was the right decision for me. So allowing that pain to move through you. The other thing that I did was I used Ho'oponopono, which is an ancient Hawaiian healing mantra prayer. And it basically goes, well, not basically, it goes, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I also did a video that explains Ho'oponopono and how you can use it. But briefly in this video, what you do is when you feel that pain in your body, whether you feel it in your heart or whether you feel it in your stomach somewhere, what you do is you focus in on that space that you feel that pain inside. It's called your pain body. You feel that pain, and then you just recite, as you're focusing on that pain body, you just recite, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And you keep repeating that prayer until you feel the pain kind of melt away. And what it's doing is it's sending you love and forgiveness to yourself, and eventually, it's sending love and forgiveness to the other person. Because remember what I said, like we're all connected, number one, but we're all doing the best we can with where we're at and the tools that we have and the level of awareness we have about where we're at in our lives, right? So by doing this, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, you're sending love to yourself, you're forgiving yourself for your contribution in manifesting whatever was manifested. I'm sorry, please forgive me, and washing that pain away. And when you do that on yourself, you're also doing it for the other person. And that's something that I did a lot. And that is something that I still do because it still comes up. I will hear from my partner. He'll send me a text message about something, or I'll see him, or I'll think I'll see him, or I'll get wrapped up in my own head, and the emotion starts to flood right in, and right away I can feel it in my body somewhere, and I just recite that prayer. And I think that has probably been the biggest thing that has helped me in that moment to kind of help ease that pain. And the fourth thing that I have written down is to immerse yourself in something creative. And this doesn't, it's difficult, or I found it difficult to immerse myself in something creative in the beginning because my head was so full of thoughts about, you know, being broken and feeling so sad and feeling down. But the more I did my own healing, the more I didn't use alcohol to cover up the pain, the more I started to focus on myself and my healing and doing the things that made me happy, like whether that's going to the gym, changing my diet. I changed my diet to a plant-based diet, not strictly vegan, but the more I started doing things that were good for me and my body and my own mental health, the better I started to feel about myself, and the more I focused in on my own healing, which included meditation, a ton of meditation, and the whole Ho'oponopono as that feeling stirred up inside of me. I eventually, like I said, I'm 2.5 months into this now, and I'm starting to feel lighter. I'm starting to feel more stable, more grounded. Things are starting to shift in my life, and I'm starting to feel that sense of I'm going to be okay. Things are going to be okay. And now my creative side is coming back up again. And here I am doing this video for you. So when you immerse yourself in something creative, whether that's writing or music or painting, whatever it happens to be for you. It could even be like, getting back to the gym or the walk in nature. Like, creativity shows up in a lot of different ways, but whatever it is for you, immerse yourself in that creative process, because when you tap into your own creative side, and that is allowed to be expressed, all of a sudden you feel like you have something to contribute, um, and something to give that expresses who you are in a much bigger way. And it gives you renewed self-confidence, because let's face it, a breakup shakes you, and it shakes your self-confidence, and it does shake your self-esteem. I mean, you could be a person that has a lot of confidence and a lot of self-esteem, but you know what? Everybody takes a hit in a breakup. Nobody goes away from a relationship completely unscathed, without feeling or emotion around that breakup, unless, of course, it just really meant nothing to you. Then it wasn't really a good relationship. Wasn't a relationship, right? It was whatever. I don't even have a word for it. But so immerse yourself into that creative process, because it will make you feel more confident in yourself. And that has been my experience too. So those are my the tips, the things that I have been using for myself in my own healing process. I've experienced waves of emotion, everything from I got this to what am I doing? Why did I do that? Why did I leave that relationship? I have been, nights crying, and I've had my days where I wake up really happy and feeling good in the morning, and then by late afternoon it's like, can I just crawl back into bed? I've experienced the roller coaster of emotion, but I'm starting to see the other side of it by doing these 4 things, which again is, focusing on my own health, eating well, not trying to band-aid it with some type of a substance, and allowing the pain to move through me, and just acknowledging that it's there, trusting myself that I made the right decision, using Ho'oponopono, and then now immersing myself into something creative, which gives me a renewed sense of purpose. So I hope that you found this video helpful. Please share it, please like, please subscribe if you haven't, and thank you so much for watching. I'm sending you tons of love, and until the next video, bye for now.